Good afternoon and welcome on the Sunset Safari. What a fantastic way to start. Lovely little breeding herd of ellies here at the Gallagher waterhole. There's actually a whole bigger herd right behind us that are spread out through the bush that have finished drinking and started feeding. My name is Brent Leo Smith and I'm going to be one of your guides for the next few hours. I have Andrew, who's also known as the Art Fark, on camera with me this evening, and on the other vehicle will be Jamie and Wiem, and in final control we have Tara and Kirsty. So what a great way to start. We are live sitting next to a herd of African elephants, and this is a little pumped waterhole in front of the lodge of Gallagher. If we have a close look there are quite a few numerous waterholes around, but elephants, if they have a choice, will drink nice clean fresh water, and you can actually see this cow playing and taking water out of where that water is being filled from. Now, elephants will definitely drink very muddy, dirty water, but where they have the choice, they will go for much nicer, more fresh water. Hear all the slurping and splashing, and you'll notice they'll flick water all over the place, particularly behind the ears is a very popular spot. Obviously there's a huge amount of blood vessels in the ears, and that's one of their elephants' cooling mechanisms. So they will often spray water behind the ears, and it'll help aid the cooling process when it's very hot. And then, even though the bush looks very, very green at the moment, it is quite dry. So these little pumped water holes are really, really great places to find game, especially early in the afternoon while it's still quite hot. And elephants do like to spend this time of the day playing in the water. And we're not the only ones watching these elephants. Tanda Kile, who's our camp chef, I'm going to get her to say hello to you now shortly. She is watching from the deck in front of the Gallagher camp. Tandi, say hello. There's Tandi, our camp chef, waving hello and enjoying a good afternoon watching elephants. There you can see this one walking past us here. It's sprayed quite a lot of water and mud behind the ears to help with that cooling process. And now there's quite a stiff wind, which will help. So from elephants in the water, off to Jamie with elephants in the mud.
Good afternoon, everybody, and what an elephant-filled day we have had here on Djuma. Wiem and myself are just sitting at Treehouse Dam, where there is some intensive mud bathing going on. They are having an absolute ball in the mud. And have a close look at that female. You might see something interesting around her neck. how much fun they're having. I'm going to in a moment reposition so that VM can not have to shoot straight into the sun, but there, look at that. That is a tracking collar. Very, very interesting. First one that I've seen while I've been doing drives for Wild Earth, and presumably placed on by some form of research group to follow the movements and to track the movements. And chances are, with that kind of collar, it's going to be one that provides both the radio frequency, so they can be tracked with telemetry kits, as well as a GPS system that will send GPS updates about twice a day. Oh, male coming in, throwing his weight around. Young bull. Oh, what a wonderful time they are having. Okay, let's reposition quickly now that he's through, so we can get a bit closer and see these guys having a wonderful time. Oh, they're going to move off. Let's see if we can get a view of our female's face. Unfortunately, they didn't stick around as long as I was hoping they would. They've already moved off. Let's try and get her fairly quickly. But keep your eyes peeled. Take screenshots of this female. She'll be very easy to identify with that collar. You say you saw a giraffe? Yeah. Okay, we'll come to the giraffe in a moment. Oh, it's all happening at Treehouse Dam. No, Elise, wait, come back. Enjoy your mud some more. Oh dear, unfortunately they're heading into the drainage line. That was very short-lived, that mud bath, but just a perfect way to be keeping themselves cool on a hot afternoon on Djuma. But very interesting to see a female with a collar. And I'm sure some of the regular viewers might have seen elephants before with collars. And it's a great way for researchers, if they really want to intensely study the movements of one herd, and they'll usually either put it on the matriarch or a high-ranking female. In this case, it looks like the matriarch just purely by her size. Off they go. Well, that was fairly short-lived. I was hoping they were going to spend a bit more time in the mud. However, I believe that Brent's elephant herd is still around and drinking at Gallagher Waterhole. So let's head back across to him, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
So while you're with Jamie, a few more elephants have joined, so a little bit more splishing and splashing, and also a little bit of dust bathing happening right next to us there, and again that also helps with cooling, protection from the sun and from a few of the insects out here. So guys, just going to be on the game drive radio for a second. Afternoon tax, there's a nice clumpy over in Lovo at Gallagher Waterhole. Copy. During the day I did hear some Nongo alarm calls in this area, but I haven't seen any Nkonzo or anything. But there's lots of Lovo sign here, so they could have walked over it. Sorry about that, folks. Just having a quick chat with Tax, who's getting mobile out of Djuma's other lodge, which is Vuyatela. So isn't this incredible? We're sitting next to a little breeding herd of elephants, and you're seeing this at the exact same time I am. And this little boy enjoying a bit of a dust bath. Oh, accidentally got the one behind, but doesn't seem to mind too much. And it looks like this little breeding herd here is keeping another little breeding herd a little bit far away, a little bit away. If we look off to the back behind, there's another breeding herd there. It doesn't look like they've drunk so far. You don't see any of that dark feet and dark trunks that traditionally elephants get after they've been into the water. Oh, and sort of as a signal, some of these guys, two young bulls, got escorted off by this big cow who's about to come into frame from the right. There she is. It's like she wants the dust. There we go. And there's a little one just behind her. Quite sure that's her baby. We're around a year old. Oh. And just judging from his behavior, it is a little boy. And you can see he's giving us that elephant stare, head up, making sure he's still close to mom. Looks like he's thirsty, he's about to go in for a drink. But he's had some water, now it's time for some milk. Oh, hello. We've got two little boys, one coming behind Andrew and one coming up to the front. No, don't be cheeky, I'm watching you. Oh, this is actually a little girl, the one behind me is a little boy. They sort of seem to simultaneously time their passing on either side of us. And she just looks a little bit curious. She's lifting her trunk, she's actually smelling us. You can see as she lifts her trunk like that. There you go, moving off, and she's even still facing her trunk back towards us, having one last sniff, making sure Andrew had a shower today at some point. Oh, this little guy looks like he's going to have some fun in the water there. It's so wonderful to have so many elephant around at the moment. So we've got quite a nice diverse group of Ellies here, and just ask Andrew to come out a little bit wide for a second. We've got a question from Greg in Pennsylvania, and he'd like to know what's the age range we're looking at here. So we've got quite a nice diverse age. The biggest female here, directly sort of center of shot at the moment, the tallest elephant there. Adult female, once they get over sort of 30ish, quite difficult to say, but I would say probably say mid-30s. And then off to the left, we've got a teenage boy, probably around 15. And then coming back, well, the little guy right at the back there is probably just over a year old, can't really fit under mom's belly anymore. Definitely a little boy. And then directly behind this big female, who's about to disappear. Oh, we've got that young bull, little teenager, being very teenagers behind us. You never want to let elephants get too close, and all it takes is a little simple tap on the side of the vehicle just to let them know. And you don't want to encourage any bad habits like putting trunks into vehicles and things like that, but here we've got a nice sort of line of elephants disappearing up in front. So that one directly behind the female, probably about 7 or 8 years old. Coming back, we've got a 2-year-old, probably about a 4-year-old, and then remaining back at the water hole once this parade of elephants has disappeared off into the bush. We've still got a few left, and we've got about probably a 10-year-old little bull, the first one on the right, and then again another, and then 2 adult females and a young female, probably 6 years old in between. So probably ranging from 40 to about a year old. So, and you notice that the ellies pick up quite a lot of water into their trunks, and they use that to drink. And Wanda in Kentucky is wondering how they don't get any of that water in their lungs. Oh, yeah, scratch. Trunk, such a versatile thing. Well, Wanda, the same as we would if we went swimming in the water. A nose is evolved, so they are able to block it. So when they inhale all that water into their nose, they will just block the section that goes all the way through to their lungs, and that will stop them getting water into their lungs. We've been quite lucky while we've been quite close here. We've heard some elephant rumbles, and that's a wonderful low. But how we found these elephants is actually heard them trumpeting. And Morning Glory is wondering where the different sounds come from. That low rumble will come from the mouth, whereas the trumpeting will come from the nose. And also they do scream, sort of incredibly loud noises. And those will also come from the mouth, and sometimes a combination of mouth and trunk. And for those of you who might be a bit new to the live drives, and I know the old timers will have heard me say this a few times, but very interesting, the Jurassic Park movies, a lot of the dinosaur noises are actually elephant noises, and they are just slowed down to sound even more scary. So very interesting. Hollywood uses slowed down elephant rumbles, screams and trumpets to emulate what possibly the noises dinosaurs would have made. We've got some new arrivals, and you can see how happy they are to be arriving here. So it's a wonderful thing about sitting quietly at a waterhole like this. And so far we've had a few different groups of elephants come through. And you can notice the water is being pumped. I'm just going to get Andrew to pop the camera down on it quickly. You can see there's a little stream that elephant's completely covering with its trunk. And curious ones notice that they seem to prefer drinking from there and seem to try to pull the water pipe out. She wonders why this is. Well, elephants are quite intelligent. They have worked out that is the source of the clean water. Although elephants will drink the absolute most disgusting water when there isn't clean water available, if they have a choice, they will go for that. So quite often when they're trying to pull up water pipes, it is to get to that nice clean water. So these Ellies are on their way out. I think they're not going to be here for too much longer, so we're going to cross across quickly to Jamie, who's got the only animal in the African bush that is taller than an elephant.
Welcome back, and we are indeed sitting with the only animal taller than an elephant, also shown to be exceptionally more patient in this particular case. This giraffe has been standing for the last 5 minutes, not doing anything. He's just standing. He hasn't been eating, he hasn't been ruminating. He just kind of shuffled into the shade, and he's now standing once again. And I think he might be dozing. His eyes are open, and I think he's just having a bit of a rest in the afternoon sun. Giraffe do sleep. They do so for sort of short bursts, a couple of minutes at a time. So maybe that's what he's been doing. Even though his eyes have been open, maybe he's just partially shut down his brain and let himself drift off a little bit. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, I did a bit of a rushed introduction with those elephants this afternoon. My name is Jamie, and I have VM on camera with me this morning. And we, along with Brent and Andrew, will be conducting these live safaris. And we're very keen to hear from you, especially if you are a new viewer. Please let us know that you've joined us for the first time. And if you have any questions at all about what it is you're seeing or anything else out here in this magical place, you can get hold of us on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV. Let's see if this giraffe is going to do anything. As one of my favorite things about giraffe is they're quite content to stand and stare for ages at a time. He really has just been completely stock still. Has not moved. The oxpeckers have been floating up and down on him, around his neck and his shoulders, picking off all of the ticks. But if you are joining us for the first time and you wanted to know how we know it's a boy, well, the start is those nice thick bald ossicones, which is the official name for those horns on the top of his head, sticking up there, as well as the quite prominent bone between his eyes on his forehead. He's also much taller, much stockier than a female giraffe. And then in terms of obvious differences between males and females, it's fairly obvious in giraffe. Interestingly, maybe a little bit of a new fact for viewers, males also have for regular viewers, males also have a slightly straighter back than females do. Females are tilted down a little bit more than males, just to make mounting a bit easier for the males. Because as you can imagine, when your legs are 2 meters long, it can be quite a tricky process. He's a nice light-colored giraffe. He's only just starting to go dark. Mature bull, though. He's reached his full size. Look at him. He's just standing. Now, I know that, just quickly, a big thank you needs to go out to John in Connecticut, who is one of our dedicated Zoomies. Now, John, you sent through a screenshot of a giraffe at the Djuma Dam camera earlier. Well, thank you very much for that. We did get it. Not sure if it's the same guy. Probably not. It's just in terms of the distance. We're sitting right in the south at Treehouse Dam. There's still so many different animals that you get to see coming through on that Djuma Dam camera. And the wonderful thing is that you guys who are watching are such a help to us in terms of finding the animals, especially if leopards or lions have come through and you tell us which direction they head off in. It's really awesome information, and it gives us an extra eye on the ground, so to speak, during the times when we are not out on our live safaris. He's still quite happily just standing. And off he goes. Now, we had those elephants earlier coming down to the dam, and they scooted off very quickly. It wasn't actually really in response to us, but it was, I think, in response to that young male who came down and was quite kind of shoving his way in and being a little bit irritating, a bit boisterous as a young teenage boy. But curious one, you were wondering if that elephant with the collar might be a little bit more wary of people because of her experience with the collaring process. And I don't think so. It depends on when she was collared. Most of the time the darting happens from the air. It's just easier and safer because you don't want the elephants to associate pains in their bottoms and sleepiness and a slightly probably hungover feeling when they wake up. You don't want them to associate that with vehicles, especially in an industry like this that is so determined or so dependent on tourists looking at the animals from vehicles. So she would have been darted from a helicopter, and then at that point she won't remember anything else because she would have been doped with M99. And they've got it down to a very exact science. The scientists who do it are incredibly efficient. They get them lying down, and they'll put the collar on and then get her back up. And I actually happened to come from a reserve where each of the 4 elephant herds were collared. There was one collared female in each herd, and it absolutely had no impact on the way that they responded to people. They were perfectly relaxed, very, very comfortable. The one thing that they don't like is helicopters. Now, we've chatted about our Ellie herd who moved off, and I don't think it's connected to our presence, but I believe that Brent's herd is still around, so let's head across to him for now. Oh, hold on. No, Giraffe's going to drink. He's being interesting. Are you gonna go drink at the waterhole? Find out. Very slowly approaching the dam. I'm going to loop into a better position. Interesting how much algae there is at Treehouse Dam. I don't know if that's what's making animals reluctant to stick around. I don't think so. Here he goes, he's going down. Hello, boy. It's okay, you can go and have a drink. Be very interesting to see how he goes about this, or if he is going to drink at all. Looks like he's going to. You can see how much Treehouse Dam has shrunk down. Oop, just poking his head over the dam wall, making sure he's safe. Could be that's why he was so stationary earlier, because giraffe are very vulnerable when they go down to drink. Oh, okay. Changed his mind. a giraffe standing on the damn wall. Maybe he smells something and he can't quite work out exactly where that scent is coming from. As I said, when they do go to drink, they are so much more vulnerable because they've got to get that head right down, and I'm sure many of you, or most of you, will have seen what a giraffe looks like when it drinks. It's got to spread its legs out sideways, duck its head right down, and it can only do that for very limited periods of time just due to the blood pressure in their neck and the way that their heart and blood flow are structured. If they keep their head down for too long, usually longer even than about 30 seconds, and at that point they actually faint. And it's quite common not common, but it does happen that giraffes drown when they go to drink, just because they've left their head down for too long and they pass out, just because the way that their blood system is structured to get that blood all the way up against gravity into the head in their normal sort of upright stance. It's not adapted to leaning forward and keeping the head tilted downward. So it could be that he was just a little bit extra cautious. He's actually decided he's not interested in the water. Might go and have a nibble. No, back the way he came. Excuse me. There's definitely plenty of dust and pollen in the air at the moment. Okay, well, our giraffe has gone back to feeding, but I believe that Brent is still with his herd of elephants who were drinking at the waterhole earlier. So I think let us head back across and see what he's seeing, and I will carry on my mission to go and see if I can follow up on those leopard tracks from this morning. Enjoy your time with Brent. I'll catch up with you soon.
Welcome back, everyone. Only 2 ellies left. The rest have moved off into the surrounding bushveld. And these two are really enjoying that fresh water from the pipe. So we've seen a few different groups of ellies move through this waterhole this afternoon, and Jimmerlin's wondering, do they communicate to each other where the water is? I think to a degree they are able to, but with these waterholes in this area have been around for quite some time, I think most of the elephants will actually just know where these waterholes are. And you can hear ellies, trumpeting and shouting at the waterhole or whatnot, and I'm sure if I understood elephant better, I'd be able to tell the difference between chasing other elephants from water, or chasing a lion, or chasing a leopard. And what you'll also find is a lot of these ellies, even though they'll move off in smaller family units, when you do get big congregations of elephants, sort of over 30, 40, 50, you'll find it's related family groups. So they'll all be cousins, and there might be aunts being different, or previously sisters being different matriarchs of the smaller little family nucleuses, with sort of a big extended related family group, and they'll tolerate those groups around the water with them more so than a completely unrelated group. So while we're with these ellies here, and it's mentioned they do chase off lions. John from California has just tweeted a really incredible picture of a lion atop an elephant carcass that apparently was taken at a reserve, or part of the Sabi Sands, but at one of the lodges to the west of us. And John's asking, how many lions does it take to bring down an elephant? And how do I know of any male coalitions that successfully used to hunt elephant? Well, if we have a look at these two elephants as a perfect example here, the one on the left is definitely gettable size for lions. The adult female on the right, unless she was in very bad nick, possibly a little bit too big for them. Not to say that they actually wouldn't try if she was in a by herself or separated or wasn't in the best condition. But generally, a lot of the lions that have hunted elephants and that have been recorded in places, specifically northern Botswana is the most famous place for lions hunting elephants, and I've been lucky enough to see it 3 times, and the shortest time it actually took was about 5.5 hours for them to actually kill the elephant, and the longest was about 8. So what happens is it actually depends. Sometimes the prides don't have to be that big. I'd say probably a minimum of about 6-7 adult females. Two male lions would be sufficient, although that mega pride and Savuti that used to hunt a lot of elephants, I think were 35 strong. But I mean, you get those huge prides in the Kruger on those big open grasslands and to the east of us, and they're often 35-40 strong, but they do not hunt elephants at all. And one must always remember that animal behavior is quite often area specific rather than species specific. So the same set or same species will behave differently in different areas. Now, the reason those lions in Botswana hunt elephants so readily is because also Botswana has an incredibly large elephant population, and that elephant population moves between the permanent water of the Okavango, Chobe, and the sometimes permanent water of the Savuti and Nohotso and those different areas. And there's a big distance those elephants have to move between food and water, much larger than we find anywhere here in the Lowveld. So sometimes those animals are quite stressed and whatnot, and the lion prides that don't live on the water as such, so specifically the lions that live in sort of the Savuti marsh and the Mopani woodlands surrounding those areas, during the dry season there's pretty much nothing but elephants around and the occasional buffalo. So those lions have developed really specialized set of skills to take down those elephants. And also, in my experience in the prides that I watched in northern Botswana regularly, it was the females who taught the males. The males would come in and would never have hunted elephants before, and the females would actually teach those male lions how to hunt elephants. So very, very interesting. And they have never seen a coalition by itself ever attempt to take on an adult or a teenage bull elephant, which is what they normally take. So those young boys hang on the periphery, sort of like 12 to 18 years old. Bless you, Andrew.
Thank you, sir.
Those 12 to 18-year-old bulls that hang on the peripheries and sometimes get pushed out of the breeding herds, and specifically in those really dry times in Botswana where there's quite a lot of pressure on the herd, there even more so those bulls will be pushed further from the herd. So those are the bulls that are targeted, and obviously when there are babies or adults that are towards the end of their life and injured and that, they will also attempt. But it is a serious war of attrition between lions and elephants when it does happen, and it can be very dangerous to view. So as you can imagine, an elephant, incredibly stressed elephant, tearing around trying to get away from lions, doesn't really take notice of a vehicle. So you do have to position yourself quite well and at quite a distance to really see that really, really well. But it is a fascinating thing to watch. These two seem to be the thirstiest elephants in the Lowveld today, taking serious advantage of that water. So, chatting about lions hunting elephants, Carla is wondering how long it would take to actually finish off an elephant carcass. Well, it depends on the size of the pride, but let's just say a good sized pride, 8 adult lionesses with 2 adult males. You're probably going to find them stationary around that carcass for up to 10 days. depending on the size of the elephant. But a good teenage elephant bull, I would say there's enough meat to keep them there for 10 or so days. And one must remember, lions are not adverse to rotten, maggot-filled meat and will happily eat it if it is available. As we can see, these ellies really taking advantage of that fresh water coming out of the pipe, and obviously a lot of other animals utilize these little pumped water holes. And Dennis from Massachusetts is wondering, have I ever seen any other animals take advantage of this? Yes, hyenas are another great one to take advantage of where the fresh water comes out of. I've seen Inyala do it, kudu, warthog. So most species will, if there is flowing water like it is at the moment, will go straight there and try and get to that clean water. And these two are really, really thirsty, and so obviously it can sometimes take quite a lot to pump these little water holes when the elephants get into them while they're being pumped. As we can see, they're taking advantage of it, so they have to run the water pumping for a little bit longer. I'm going to move the vehicle a little bit so you can have a look at them drinking a little bit better. We can have a look how she's putting her trunk right over that inflow. So we do know, obviously, as we're talking about these elephants going for the clean water, and quite often you'll find elephants will dig in these dry riverbeds rather than drink out of some of the muddy water holes. Oh, see that big tick, Andrew? Just on his side there. Oh, it's disappearing. Oh, it looks like there was a big tick on the side of that elephant. We'll see if we can get another view of it. There you can just see it hanging off just behind her mammary glands. Well, it looks like they're going to move off, so I think we'll do the same. Wasn't that a fantastic way to start out with all those elephants all around us? That was incredible. So we actually heard them from the camp before we even got out. And waiting patiently, I think, to come have a drink is this nice big waterbuck bull. Elephants to leave. Quite often elephants will chase other animals away from the water. It'll be interesting to see if he's waited for those elephants to move off, or wait for them to move off a little bit further before attempting to go have a drink. Or possibly he was drinking beforehand and got chased by the elephants. Maybe that was that roar and scream we heard from camp before we got going. Lovely ridges on the horns there. An impressive set of horns to battle for the ladies. They're relaxing in the shade, ruminating. Watch even that they stock still in the shade there. There we go. They're constantly alert to other things around. Do you hear anything, Andrew? Can you hear a scrub robin? Do you spot something? What you spotted, Mr. Waterbuck? Let's just go have a quick look. And this is the area, I think, Madame Karula is hiding out in at the moment. Unfortunately, those elephants will obliterate any tracks that were around. Let's have a look. He was giving an impala the evil eye. So not a leopard, unfortunately, just a male impala. Then obviously the movement is which would have caught his eye first. So he would have stared intently at it to make sure, oh, there goes the impala at high speed. It wasn't another predator. I know, a bit disappointing, and then the impala didn't even hang around for a photo op, just disappeared. So I'm still convinced Karula is in this area, so we'll do one quick loop around, see if there may be some tracks further away. If not, then we'll have to make a new plan. So in case you guys missed it there's that beautiful little bird call we heard while we were watching the waterbuck. As we said a few minutes ago, it was a white-browed scrub robin. And they have actually a huge variety of calls, and they're a great mix of us. I'm just going to grab my binos and have a look. They don't seem to be moving or making a noise. Oh, maybe you hear them. Alright, there we go. Okay, Andrew, come down. Come down a bit more. Okay, zoom in now. Come down slightly. To the right slightly. In there. I think that's where I saw it. Just double check with. It's amazing how they just disappear. Okay, come to the left a little bit. Am I on the right branch? Yes. Yeah, stop. Now this is spot the parrot. I'm going to get Andrew to drop again slightly to make sure that it's in center frame. Keep coming. Stop. There we go. You got them there?
Got him.
There we go. So hiding behind that little branch there. I wonder what he's eating there. It looks like he's actually might be even eating the nice fresh leaves. Squawking away. Oh, feasting. And check carefully around. There's probably another couple around somewhere else in that mirror. Hoping he moves out into the open as he uses those specially adapted zygodactyl feet. I wonder who out there can remember what a zygodactyl foot is, and if you do remember, please send us your answers through to questions at WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. There we go, a little bit more out in the open now. You see, spotting of the birds is going to become quite a bit more challenging as the trees continue to explode in leaf. Oh, off he goes. Probably also doesn't help that half of the parrot is exactly the same color as the tree, and the other half is quite brown, almost exactly like the branches. Sorry guys, just giving an update on the Game Drive channel. Sorry F, what was that update? Copy, thanks. Could you keep me informed if later it possibly heads south? I know you guys were asking about the leopards we see around, and just a little update there. Another update. So 2 of the leopards we haven't seen for an incredibly long time have been found this afternoon just to the east of us. The quarantine male leopard, I know, is a great favorite of many of our viewers, and also in Vula, probably about 800 meters to a kilometer to the east of our boundary. So we're going to continue to search this area for a possible sign of the Queen of Djuma, and while we do that, we're going to send you back across to Jamie, who's going to take you almost down to the ground with some elephants.
Welcome back, and just before we get on to elephant tracks, just have a look at what appears to be coming towards us. This is quite the cold front that seems to be heading in our direction. It's blown in so fast. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this storm to, or at least this front and this heat to break. It's been building for the last 3 or so days, and it's just only starting to really now see it. And I'm wondering, I'm really hoping, obviously not before the end of the sunset safari, but I am really hoping that this is going to be accompanied by some rain. Somehow, I don't think so. I have a funny feeling it's going to be a couple of drops, and nothing more, but you just never know. But before we lose our nice light completely as it starts to blow over the sun, we had a really interesting question from Joyce, who wanted to know a little bit about tracking. Now Joyce wanted to know about the biggest tracks that we see, so a comparison between something like an elephant, then giraffe, rhino, hippo, and then lions and lioness tracks. Now I'm a very poor artist, but I have picked up the largest of those, which is an elephant track, and I'm going to try and answer Joyce's question to the best of my ability. So let's have a look at what we've got. Grab a stick to draw with. So, if you can see it, this is the elephant track that I'm talking about. And it's quite a big one. It's probably quite a big bull, or at least a sort of middle-sized bull. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around the edges because he's registered, which means his back track has fallen on top of his front track. So his front track is here-ish, and his back track is here. Here you go, it's a sort of a rough indication of size. And if you sort of look at my hand, that is the size of his track. Fairly average size, large adult elephant track. Now, if we want to talk a little bit, oh, that's going to block the sun. We want to talk a little bit about the other tracks that we see. I'm going to go in size order for you, Joyce, in terms of feet. So next in terms of foot size is a rhino. A big white rhino bull will probably look something along that sort of size. So there you go, there's his track in the elephant track. About that size compared to that size. You cut that away. Your next big track is going to be a hippo track, which is going to be for a big male, like this. 4 toes and round the back. So about roughly the same size as a white rhino bull. Nice big white rhino bull. I'm keeping my elephant track as a comparison size for you. Smooth that over. There you can see it's just to remind you of the outline of the elephant track. That's here. Next, we're probably looking at a giraffe, which, although it is quite long, is also quite narrow compared to an elephant. So even that big male giraffe that we saw earlier will probably look something like this. Fall into the middle like this. And that's a very large giraffe track. Right? The other ones that you sometimes see for the females are a little bit smaller than that. That's a very large giraffe track. That's in terms of size. And last but not least, you asked about a lion track. A lion track is roughly the size, because I've looked at them before, of my hand if I do that. So let's use that as a shape. This is now a track of a Birmingham boy, let's say. 1, 2, 3. Back pad. This is a big lion. This is a big male. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. So about a little bit of that patch of the ground. The lioness is about 3/4 of that size, and Shadow's track, just to give you that last comparison in terms of size, is about the size of my palm. So a really tiny, delicate little track that looks much like that, even smaller than that. I'm not the world's best artist, Joyce, but just to give you a bit of a comparison of the size of the animals that we're going to see. And one last thing, whilst I make my way back towards the car, remove some of the sand from my legs. There's my track in comparison to our elephant bull. There you go. Bit of a size comparison. I apologize for not being the world's best artist. I also don't have the world's biggest feet either. But there you go. Our elephant size comparison along with all of the other animals that we will see out here. The other one was buffalo, which I forgot to do, and I was going to demonstrate, but I forgot. Oh, Wendy doesn't want to let me back in. There we go. Now buffalo is just a bit smaller than that big male giraffe track that I showed you. Alrighty, well let us continue on our way now that we've done a bit of tracking lessons. Now, the wonderful thing about tracks is not just being able to identify which animal made them. It's that they tell you so much about what that animal was doing. And you learn about animal behavior from looking at their tracks, and you learn about tracking by looking at animal behavior. And I remember learning to track many years ago, looking at different tracks that we could see in the area. And the guy I was tracking with, he was incredible. It was like he could track birds through the air. And we were tracking a bull elephant, and he said to me, look here, this elephant turned its head left. And I thought that was absolutely astounding. I also thought he was kind of having me on as an apprentice guide, just getting to know the area and tracking. And he said to me, no, come look, watch next time you guys see an elephant. Watch when they turn their heads to the left. You might even see just that slightest shift in the way that their feet are positioned, and that just creates ever so slightly a bit of a blurring of the line of the track. It's really, really interesting to see. Tracks will tell you the whole story if you know how to read them. Speed, direction, everything along those lines. As I said, I am no artist, and I apologize for that. But apparently, according to Cucino John, my artwork puts James's to shame, which is...
Oh, I agree.
Oh yeah, Wildebeest agrees completely, which I'm quite chuffed by, considering my lack of drawing ability. I'm not sure what that says about James's artwork though. I did see a map drawing that he did in the ground at some point, so I'm on the same page. And on the subject of James, just because we are talking about him and vilifying his drawing abilities, James will be back next week, Wednesday, we think. We'll be back around the 6th. Just to let you all know. And one thing I also forgot to mention this morning, I'm not sure if Brent mentioned it, is we also have Tara back in FC. She's back from leave, so we'll say a big welcome back to both Tara and to Kirsty, who are back on Djuma once again. And speaking of being back to places, we're back to where I started this morning on the sunrise safari. Shadow, and I suspect it is Shadow, has pulled a sneaky maneuver on me somewhere. Somehow she's hidden herself away around here. Now, I saw the tracks. Look, it's supposition on my part that it is Shadow. It's a guess that I'm making. I don't think it's Karula. I think that Karula's moved further north towards where Brent started his sunset safari. And I think this is Shadow moving through familiar areas to have a look around to see what she can find. Her tracks came into this block here. I've done the whole of the southern section because she very often was seen there with Sindile, and I thought maybe she might head to familiar ground. But it's also been so blazing hot today that she may just have gone into that drainage line and lay down and been hiding in the shade of a guarri bush all afternoon. I haven't found her tracks coming out anywhere. But leopards can be sneaky things. I'm still going to do one more loop before I decide I've been defeated, and then return back here a little bit later when it's a bit cooler, and we're likely to hear either her moving around, therefore causing alarm calls, or else her calling, which is also a possibility. Her tracks came down from Balanites Road and moved east into this block here, and it's a huge system of drainage lines. It's very difficult to pinpoint exactly where she might have gone. This is a mystery to me. It's also not the easiest area to track in. It's unusually, for the Sabi Sands, it's unusually rocky in there. I'm also checking all of the big trees might be seeking refuge there. And if this fails, then I'm going to head across towards the Arathusa boundary and just check up with the guides there if they've seen any sign of her. Maybe she doubled back once she arrived here and didn't find anything. Wow, weather's coming in. It's good though. We really, really, really need that rain. I'm hoping it's going to come. Changed. The bush has gone green and doubled in thickness in the last week or so. And I mentioned this morning we were sitting with a herd of nyala around the Galago Lodge, and I mentioned that I saw some pregnancy bulges around there. And Jennifer, who is watching all the way in Missouri, you wanted to know when the impalas start to have their babies. And on that note, if I see a herd, I'll stop for you and show you, because the ewes are starting to show. Every now and again you get a very funny angle that looks very much suspiciously like an elbow digging into poor mom. So they are around, and you were wondering when they're going to pop. It depends a little bit on the season that we can expect. If it's going to be dry, if the rains hold off, then they might be born a little bit late. And just to clarify, that's not a conscious decision on their part, it's a bodily response. It varies from year to year depending on the rainfall and depending on the area you're in. But that being said, it's going to be around the end of November to the beginning of December is when we're going to see those babies coming through. Definitely an amazing time to be out and about in the bush. First the impalas, then the wildebeest. Those are the two with a sort of really strict breeding season. But the rest of the animals, although they don't have a strict time of year that they breed in, they're still going to be birth peaks during the rainy season, which of course makes total sense because it's resource dependent. And we're going to be seeing a lot of baby herbivores wandering around. Many different things coming through. This leopard has pulled a sneaky maneuver on me somewhere down the line. I don't know where she's vanished off to. I continue on my search for who I suspect to be the sneaky shadow who's taken a leaf out of her mother's book. Let's head back across to Brent and see what he's been up to, as well as get some answers on his Spot the Parrot quiz. I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Back everyone, as you can see, I think these elephants have been causing quite a lot of havoc around here. So as you can see, 2 trees down on the road, so I'm going to be a little bit lazy and I'm going to use the vehicle to just push it away a little bit off the road. That didn't work so well. Just a little bit low for me to catch with the bull bar. So I'm gonna just move it by hand, which I probably should have done in the first place. Normally if it's a bit higher you can just use the front bar of the vehicle to push these type of branches off. This is quite a strong one. It is a red bush willow, for those of you wondering, and it is quite a tough tree. I think it's just too stuck into the ground to pull off the road without a tractor. So we're going to leave it there. As you can see, the roots are still cemented. And this was definitely done sometime between the sunrise safari and the sunset safari. And that's incredible power these Ellies have. So it's just a little bit too stuck there. So we'll just drive around for now. Report it to the gentleman with the tractor, and they can come pull it off the road. So, Aliza, those of you can remember, asked after I said that parrot had zygodactyl feet. I said, what is the defining thing of an animal that, or a bird that has zygodactyl feet? And Deborah, Raggedy Ann, and Mumsy all got it correct. And they have 2 feet facing forwards and 2 feet facing back. So all the parrot species. And parakeets. Where's the brown headed? There's our one we saw today. You can see, there we go. So 2 facing forward, 2 facing back. And the only other bird that has zygodactyl feet that we see in this area is the African green pigeon. So, and that's a lot of your fruit specialists like parrots will be able to do that. So keeping with birds' feet. So if a parrot's got zygodactyl feet, what type of feet does a dove have? Or most of the other birds, for that fact. So who knows what the other main foot type in birds is? And you can send your answers through to questions at WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So these Ellies have made tracking incredibly difficult in this area. They've pretty much walked everywhere. So even if Karula had crossed these roads, it's going to be a stroke of luck if we spot those tracks. And also, I know Jamie mentioned, you can see there's quite a large cloud bank moving in from the west. And maybe a little cold front. I don't think it's going to get too cold. And I don't think it's going to hold too much rain, maybe just a bit of wind and overcast weather. Watch me eat my words and be bundled up in jackets and scarves and gloves by tomorrow morning. That would be Murphy's Law for tempting with the weather. So this is the area I thought that those alarm calls came through probably around 10 o'clock, so it is quite a while ago. And you know how Madam Karula does like to move during the day, even when it's very hot. So I'm going to check up towards where to the access, up onto Albies Road. Maybe she's continued a bit further to the west. Oh, more elephants. No, we're not going to stick with them just yet. We're going to keep on moving to see if we can find leopards, but there we go. I think this is probably the same group, in the road as well, that we saw at the waterhole. They've now moved up into this area to spread out and start feeding. I'll just sneak through them. Oh, and it looks like we might get a little run at from the little boy. Yes, big and scary. Go back to your mom. Elephants everywhere. Oh, you're very scary. I'm sorry. I didn't stop and take. There we go. Go back to eating. You've sufficiently reprimanded us. As we move through these alleys after being severely reprimanded by that youngster. Yesterday I mentioned that one of the sort of natural controlling agents of elephants is anthrax. And for those of you not sure what anthrax is, it's a fungal spore that actually animals will breathe in, and it will infect their lungs and kill them. And Jennifer was wondering, where on earth would elephants come into contact with anthrax? Anthrax occurs naturally all over this arid and semi-arid areas of southern and east Africa, and it's generally during very dry times that they come into contact with anthrax, and it's normally disturbed by kicking up dust or spraying dust, etc. like that, that they will pick up those anthrax spores, quite often on the edges of waterholes and places like that. Not so much in the Sabi Sounds, but further north in the Kruger, where it's slightly drier. Okay, so if Madame Kruger was walking through here, she quite often used to like to go onto the Zoe's road, so she would come straight across, not use this main access road, and use this elephant path that came on here. We're going to look carefully for tracks around here quickly. Andrew, you checking that side? See anything there? Negative. Okay, and off we continue. Possibly onto the power lines. Nope. Also, the other problem is that because there have been so many elephants around since this morning, they will not particularly like a leopard in the area. So if they do find it, they will chase her off. So we're going to extend our search zone by a little bit. well done to Mumsy, Raggedy Ann, Joanne, and Elaine, who got that next bird feet question right. And they have ectopterodactyl feet, so 3 toes facing forward and 1 facing to the rear. So we've got no tracks here yet, so we're going to cut onto Aubrey's Road and check back down towards the Boffelshoek boundary. Hopefully we have some luck there, and I am keeping my ears peeled in case Mvula or Quarantine decide to start moving to the north, which will be straight towards us from where they are at the moment.